Hello everyone and welcome back to the beautiful circuit that is Le Mans. Today we're going to be doing a track guide in the BMW GT3 car. This track is amazing but it has some very difficult off tracks. This lap was done with a fixed setup and a track temp of 40 degrees Celsius. Before we start, I'd like to ask you all to subscribe to my channel as we're nearly at 900 subscribers. I'll first leave you with a fast lap, then we'll get straight into the guide. Let's get into it! For this first kink you want to make sure that you use all of the extra space on the left to help set up for the chicane. I turn in just before the pit exit line ends, keeping it flat, and then brake in a straight line at the first white line. Here I don't use enough of the track as the track limit is the curb on the right, not the white line. This means that I can't carry as much speed as I otherwise would be able to. I turn in just after the second white line and use second gear. You can cut some of the inside curbs on this chicane, however if you get slightly too greedy and cut too much you'll get a slowdown, so be mindful of this while you're driving. After the first apex I keep the car around the middle of the track and lift while turning in for the second apex. You can again cut a lot of this second curb. For the exit the track limit is the second of the two markers on the outside of the track. If you go past here you'll get a slowdown. For this left-hander I brake just after the bollard's end and use third gear. I brake to around 60% and trail off very quickly. I turn in quite late to get a good exit through this next corner. It should be flat, however you may have to lift if you carry too much speed through the first one. Here I keep the car on fourth and brake slightly just after the blue board. You can cut some of the inside curb, and the limit on the exit is the blue and yellow curb. If you aren't within it before it ends, you'll get a slowdown. The key to both of the Mulsanne chicanes is using all of the track. I brake at the yellow marker on the barrier down to third gear for the first part of the chicane, and second gear on the second turn. I turn in at the cone and cut the first curb, and then shift down to second gear and turn in late for a good exit onto the next straight. For the second turn I begin to get back on throttle at the bollards as you see here. You want to take a mid-apex here as you can use all of the exit on the right. You get a slowdown on these curves if you put more than one set of tyres over them. For the second chicane I brake at the 100 metre board down to third gear, then second again. I turn in at the cone again and cut the first curb, and then shift down to second gear, and begin to get back on throttle just after I get off the second curb. The last curb you can drive over, but this can also give you a slowdown if you take too much, so be careful and find the limit on your first few runs. Here I brake just after the curb starts. My peak brake pressure is around 80% and I turn in after the cone on the left. I turn in late to get back on throttle early for a good exit. I use second gear because it's more stable under acceleration, but first gear can also work here. You just have to be more gradual with the throttle. This next complex can be difficult. I trail brake at the end of the AstroTurf and shift down to 5th gear. I then brake hard in the straight line at the end of the curb from 5th to 2nd gear. You can use the curb on the outside to open up the corner. I turn in just after it, and I get back on throttle at the inside curb. You can also take some of the gravel on the outside without getting enough track here. Here I brake just after the 50 metre board goes off the screen. You can use the curb again on the entry, and I turn in late for a late apex just after it. Here I use 2nd gear for a more stable exit again, and I gradually get back on throttle to avoid the TC engaging. For the first of the Porsche curves I brake at the start of the AstroTurf and shift down late to 4th gear to keep the car stable. I trail brake to the apex before slowly getting back on throttle and making sure that the car doesn't understeer. This next corner is flat if you get the line perfectly. I take some of the inside curb and shift up to 5th gear through here. This next one, you want to stay as wide as possible for as long as you can, and then shift down to 4th gear. Then just trail braking through this long right, being smooth with my inputs to not understeer. For this left-hander, I lift in 4th gear when the grass is aligned with the car, and I get back on throttle before the curb. On the exit, you get a slowdown if you're beyond the white line, after the curb ends. For the penultimate chicane, you can use the pit entry to open up the corner. I brake just before the curb starts, and I turn in aiming to cut both curbs using 3rd gear. I then go to around half throttle on the exit, and for the final chicane, I brake at the curb on the right here, and shift down to 2nd gear, cutting the first curb and avoiding the second sausage curb. That's all for this guide. I hope you enjoyed the longer video. If you found this guide helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you liked the video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll leave you the 3rd person lap to the end of the video. Goodbye.